Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with the Fans Forum. Kev will be joining very, very shortly, but I couldn't leave you all waiting, so I thought I'd just jump in and get things kicked off. So we're going to talk fixture release dates. We're going to talk all, big games that are coming up for Aston Villa as the new season was announced today. The 24-25 fixtures were released. You guys let me know your thoughts on any tough months, any big games that you're looking forward to, and kind of early thoughts, early predictions on the way that the fixtures fall. Obviously, there's going to be lots of changes with Sky, with the Champions League, with everything like that to come into it. But early indications, what do you think on the fixtures coming out? And are you really that bothered now? Obviously it's big for the promoted teams and to see who they're getting, but with Aston Villa, are we now looking at, well, basically we have to play everyone, and we want to be going out and trying to beat every single team, and we feel that we can. So let me know your thoughts and see what everyone thinks. We're going to be talking transfers. Obviously, Tim Irigbonen potentially on the move. Weston McKennie, there's some dealings to do there. Is it holding up? I'll be looking at other players. I've got a little bit of information that might be of use to people. And we're going to do a bit of a Euros roundup, covering some of the Villa players and just general European championships to cover. So let's get the man himself in. Kev, how are you doing, mate? Good to see you.
Hello, Rich. Hello, everybody. Yeah, mate, great to be here. I'm missing watching Aston Villa, talking about Aston Villa. Because it's been pretty good the last few years. So we just got to deal with the watching the glimpses of Aston Villa players in the Euros, which for England is just seeing them on the bench talking, and for Scotland is watching them losing. And there's not much else going on there, is there really?
Not really. Obviously, I'm just saying there in the intro, we're going to talk fixtures, anything that's caught your eye and anything that's caught the viewers' eyes in terms of fixtures, and a bit of a Euro roundup. And I guess just in general, really, we'll talk England, obviously, and we'll talk Scotland because of McGinn. But just in general, any dark horses, any teams that have impressed you, or lack of impression apart from England, I would say. So yeah, and everything in between, transfer rumours and all that jazz. So who is in the chat? We've got Lewis. Good evening to you. Rachel, good evening. Michael, good evening to you. You are listening while you're driving, so I hope you are keeping that driving sensible there, Michael. Gene, good evening to you, and Gary as well, and Bear in the garden, good evening. We've obviously on X as well at the same time, so get your comments in on X. And make sure you hit that like button, everyone. Hit the subscribe button. We're almost at 4,200. I mean, it's crazy. I think it was a week ago that I said we were at 4,000. Now we're nearly at 4,200. So if we could do 5,000 before the season starts, that would be just crazy. So please help, like, subscribe, all that jazz, and keep your comments coming through. So what's the comment saying about the fixtures before I get your thoughts, Kev? Deonta says, greetings, everyone. Spurs home and Man United away are the final two games of the season. Very interesting. Gary, West Ham away on TV, not too bad. Can't see it being 5-1. Yeah, well, obviously we thought the season was going to be a terrible one at the start of this one when Newcastle beat us 5-1, and it didn't turn out that way. So can't read too much into the first games. Kevin, Man United away last game, always a defeat. It's irrelevant now. Season's done by them. Yeah, we'll have won the league by them, wouldn't we, Kev? So
Absolutely.
your thoughts on the fixtures? Anything that jumped out to you?
They're all Premier League teams that were playing in the Premier League.
Yes.
Some of them are in London, some are Liverpool, there's a couple of the northeast. I mean, I'm not. You know what it is now? Like now we are where we are as like a decent team again. Then I'm not looking at it thinking, crikey, we've got them and then we got them. I don't think there's any back-to-back horrors. I don't know.
I'll bring the fixtures up.
I feel like the start of the season is not too bad. You've got Wolves, Everton at home. You've got Leicester away. Obviously, you've got a couple of tricky games away at West Ham, home to Arsenal. But 13 points, I reckon, out of that 15, and top of the league. I can't see anything else. You've brought the fixtures up there as if I've got the eyes of a 4.3-year-old,
sorry,
rather than a 43-year-old. But I can see there's claret on the screen, definitely in the middle. And I think I'll make out the word November, but no. Luckily, Richard, I've got my own little set of fixtures here, so
Oh,
I can
good
talk
man,
about it.
good man. But yeah, I think November was the time that sprung out to me in terms of potential toughies. Tottenham away, Liverpool away, Chelsea away, and with Palace the only home game in that month. And I think a few people, I don't know if it was AVFC Stato had mentioned, or a few people have said the Champions League fixtures, five of them, it might be four or five. I'd say five. We've got away games after tough
Five,
away games
five of the
after
seven.
five of the Champions League dates. Yeah,
Five of the
yeah.
seven. Yeah,
Well, it's
that's
eight
shocking.
Champions League dates now, isn't it? So
Mm.
because we play eight matches, so
Oh yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know
yeah.
if it's as bad as people were anticipating. And then an away game, first game of the season is what it is, and then obviously away at Man United, last game of the season. But I don't like you say, mate. It's one of those now. We're a big Premier League side. Teams will fear playing us more so than we need to go and fear them. You know what I mean? So we just take it as it comes, I think.
Yeah, the other thing I thought that was again, not that it maybe matters too much, but is over December up until the first game of January, we've got 5 out of 7 games at home in the league. And that's always a tricky time of the season, isn't it? That so if you've got Brentford, Southampton at home, Man City, Brighton, and also Leicester, and then we've got away fixtures to Newcastle, Boxing Day, and Forest. So you look at that and you think Brentford, Southampton, Forest, Brighton, Leicester, like there's some points there at what will be a key part of the season. It was
Yeah,
this time last season where, sorry, that time last season where we started to struggle. I'm helping my lad do a little project for school, and he's done his project on Villa qualifying for the Champions League. So I had to go through and find some photos of us at matches and talk about key moments. And as I was going through it, I was thinking, crikey, it was great up until Christmas, wasn't it? It was brilliant. And then that Sheffield United game was when it kind of turned. And then I'm struggling to, oh, yeah, there was a good win at Arsenal. And I'm only doing home games. And as I'm talking about his fixtures, my God, that was the 11th home league win in a row. That was the 14th against Man City, the 15th against Arsenal. So that time of season, I've got no doubt the squad will be stronger. I don't think we'll have as many injury issues. Let me see. You can't get 3 ACLs again, can you? And but it will be a crunch time of the season for everybody, particularly with the exploits of Europe. So I
mm.
think the fact you've got favourable fixtures, you might look at that there. Could be a good omen, really.
Yeah. I definitely think I've got a question for you in a second, but I'll just jump into some comments. Bear in the Garden says there isn't an easy game nowadays. Absolutely. Paul on X says I used to look nervously at the final fixtures. Not fussed now. Bring them all on. Yeah, I am agreeing with you. Lewis says Newcastle away on Boxing Day is really bad. Miles to get to on Boxing Day unless you live up there, Rich. Yeah, exactly. This is so ironic. I'm actually on holiday at Christmas time this year, and we've got Newcastle around the Boxing Day fixtures. So absolutely, yeah, the easiest one for me to get to. I'm not in the country, so yeah, typical.
Classic.
Kevin said we'll be resting players at Old Trafford in readiness for the Champions League final.
Yeah,
What about that for positivity?
love it.
Adamski, I've just looked at it without fear of any other club for the first time in decades. Then Man United away for the last match seems like a prize at this moment. And LG said, according to according to Opta, we have one of the easiest fixture lists. Oh, well, is that based on like who you've in what sequence you've got them? Is that what they're trying to say? I mean, as I say, every game's a tough one. You're talking about some of these the promoted teams. Leicester's going to be a tough one right at the start of the season. Kev, Ipswich end of September. Potentially tough one. You can't. It's about momentum, isn't it? And you talked so much at the start of the past season about the momentum that we were going into this current season with off the back of finishing seventh the previous
Yeah.
season, and that's what we really grasped to. Now we haven't had. It's going to be a different pre-season this year because we're going into Champions League. Yes, we finished that season brilliantly in terms of the fourth position, but our form wasn't exactly brilliant, and many would say we kind of limped over the line. So it's going to be a different dynamic, isn't it, going into this season with the games?
It is, yeah, it is, and of course we absolutely smashed it, didn't we? Under Emery coming in November, out of really nowhere, we came to qualify for Europe, and I mean we nearly got sixth, didn't we, in the end? So it was just an unbelievable performance. I think the thing is the drop off was inevitable. I think with the squad, with the injuries, with the fatigue, with everything has been talked about. and loads of teams dropped off. Loads of teams, Liverpool dropped off. You know,
Yeah, Liverpool, Tottenham,
Tottenham
obviously.
massively dropped off. Yeah, loads of teams did. So I think we'll go into this season. I think that the thing is, obviously, there's the Euros to contend with and the business, the ins and the outs. Once he's got a few ins and sorted out, trimmed his squad a little bit, then yeah, I think there'll be some good momentum. And the thing is, like you made the point, Rich, there are no easy fixtures. If you look at our season last season, we took 9 points out of 12 from Arsenal and Man City.
Mhm.
You know, and yet we just about got a draw at home to Sheffield United. We lost to Forest away. You know, there were some pretty bad results. You know, Newcastle we gave up 6 points. So you know, it's you never know what's going to happen. And we saw some of the lower teams, other than maybe like Sheffield United, against us, really against anyone else, didn't really perform. But I know Leicester are going to have the struggles with the points deductions, and I'm sure Ipswich and Southampton will find it hard. But we've got to get to a level now as a team where we start to put those teams to bed, like we have done actually in the last year or two under Emery. But that Sheffield United game at home, following Arsenal and Man City, if we'd have not got fourth and we'd have lost out by 2 points, it would have been absolutely criminal for us to not win that game under the lights Friday night. So we've just got to start to. That's not a game that Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool are probably going to lose, basically.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. Quick question from Alex. Greetings from Miami, top man. Does it matter when we play teams as we have to play them all twice?
Well, I'd say for certain, like there are certain teams in the league where, I mean, let's be clear, right? St James's Park, we might as well just give them 3 points now, right? Right, and the fact we got that out of the way first game of the season, albeit we got the Mings injury, but I just think at any point in that running, if we'd had if we'd had Newcastle away, I would have seen that as the same as having Man City away in terms of it. So I think there are certain teams, whether it's a bogey team, a team you often don't do well against, where you're thinking, might as well write that one off. Now, I'd like to think Villa are getting into the territory we don't write off any games. You'd hope that, but um, yeah, I think there are maybe some games like that, but
I think it's about momentum, isn't it, as well?
yeah,
Like there's times where you'll look at it can work both ways. There's times when you think, oh, we've got 2 or 3 promoted teams in quick succession. You know, 3 out of maybe 4 of the games are against promoted teams. Now that can be a blessing or a curse, can't it? It could be, well, yes, you pretty much guaranteed 3 points in all those games, and it gets you up the league. Or you lose one of those games, and all of a sudden the pressure's on to try and win the next ones. And equally, if you have Liverpool away and then Man United at home and Arsenal away in 3 consecutive games, then you want you can really grasp the season and get a march on those teams, or you can ruin your season by losing 2 out of those 3. So that's where I guess it can be about timing of when you're playing these teams. And I
it
think
can.
Gary's mentioned there, if you've got Arsenal home second game of the season, maybe they're not quite as
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the
yeah.
groove for the season. It's our first home game, all the buzz and everything like that. It could be a really good time to play them.
Yeah, I also look at the potential running, for obviously when we were in the running for the league, and hopefully they've got the league wrapped up by April. But if we haven't got the league wrapped up by April, then we've got Brighton away, Forest at home, Southampton away, Newcastle home, albeit we've got Man City away next. Then we've got Fulham, Bournemouth. You look at that run of 7 fixtures, including Newcastle. Okay, Newcastle at home, but you think there's some winnable games there. Tottenham, Man City at the end, when you might need to get some points. It's not like you're away at, we had obviously a tricky run of fixtures, didn't we? The last
Yeah,
season, ending it at home at Liverpool. So you could look into everything really. And if we'd have
yeah,
talked at the start
exactly.
of last season, we would have gone, well, Man City and Arsenal away and at home. Come on, we're lucky to get 1 point, and we got 9 points, and that's what got us Champions League. So, and that's what stopped
Yeah,
Arsenal winning the league.
yeah. Just a quick bit of breaking news. Portugal are now winning 2-1 against Czech Republic, a last minute 90th minute goal. So they've got out of jail. Roberto Martinez has got them out of jail. The final question on the fixtures. Now, the Champions League draw hasn't been made yet. I'm not 100% sure. People in the chat will be able to let me know when that draw is. I'd imagine there's qualifiers, is there, for this one, and teams have to go through that until it's kind of drawn who everyone's got. But let me know when that's going to be. But how do you see us balancing up that Champions League with the league, in particular the fixtures that you've got after the Champions League games?
All about the squad, mate. It's all about the squad, and I'm really hoping, second summer now for Emery. This will be what, the third transfer window. And he'll be able to move on. I think finally the players that he does want to get out of the squad, bring some in within the obviously the boundaries of FFP. But I really think now it's about building that squad, and it's also about improving players in the first team, because if we want to have a real crack at the Champions League, we're going to need to bring in a lot of bodies. And if the rumours are what they are, I'm sure we'll talk about the McKennie, Louise sort of situation. But at the moment, if Tim's off, which looks like he is, Louise is off, then how many centre midfielders have you got? You haven't got many, then have you really left? So you're going to have to bring in some numbers. Striker, we know if what happens with Duran, you're going to have to bring in more options there. And I still think we're light up front based on if something was to happen to Watkins. We know the defensive challenges we had last season. So I think there's going to need to be quite a few ins, because otherwise I think we really will struggle to do it. We've done a great job this season in the Conference League, but to lose home and away to Olympiacos really it just shows how much we dropped off, because that was just, it was open for us, wasn't it? That competition.
Yeah, and you do think 2 or 3 more players of real first team caliber would have helped us. Potentially do much better in that game. Obviously, there's no guarantees in anything. You mentioned Tim Irigbonham, and that came a little bit out of the blue today. Pete O'Rourke reporting. I think he might be Football Insider as well, I believe, but works for Sky Sports as well, and it's reported that Everton are in advanced talks, and then that got picked up by John Townley and a few more, I guess, more credible in quotes reporters, that he's looking at moving to Everton for 10 million. I don't know if it's a 10 million fee or 10 million deal, but either way, that's not a bad signing in essence for Everton, and not a bad deal for Aston Villa. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it shows how far Villa have come in recent years. I caught a bit of a I can't speak, on Sky Sports today, which was like the Championship, years from like early 90s to 2019 was the last one, obviously, when we got promoted. I remember thinking, God, it's only 5 years, really, like this month, pretty much, when we got promoted back to the Premier League. To think that not long before that, Everton, where we had Carlo Ancelotti in charge and were knocking on the top four, now we're selling them our players that can't even get in our centre midfield when we've got a raft of injuries. That says a lot about where we are as a club now. But also that Irigbonham's seen as being a good signing for Everton. And I think he is. I think he's a good player. But the fact of the matter is, you've got a player that's not getting anywhere near your first team when you've got injuries galore. Well, I think that's got to be a good deal for you. I don't think we would have got him for much of a fee. I think it was an undisclosed fee, but it wouldn't have been much when we got him from West Brom. So let's say it is a 10 million deal. That's 10 million pounds worth of good business. And if you can move along now, the Den Dunkers of the world, the Chambers of the world, see what happens with Duran, obviously the rumours and cash. I think we need to just be quite decisive now. But of course, the talk about transfers and what's going on with it, there's not been a load of transfers. There's not like some Premier League teams are making 4, 5, 6 transfers and we're getting left behind. There's not that much going on, is there?
No, and I do think many clubs will be at the Euros trying to do deals, trying to work deals. Scouts will be there watching for potential players, and the players that they're looking to buy are playing at the moment. You don't want to potentially do a deal for a player and then them get injured or get a serious injury. So they are going to wait a week or two for those sort of things to move forward. But yeah, I think it's a good deal. I think it's good for both parties. I tweeted out, what he wants to push on with his career. He wants to potentially get a fresh start and challenge for first team football elsewhere. We need some money. I think could be a potential buyback put in there. I don't know, and that's not been guaranteed. And then a potential sell-on clause as well for Villa. So if all that works out, then that would be pretty good in terms of us ensuring the deal, I guess. Rachel said young Tim going to Everton is good for him and pure profit for him. Also, yeah, hopefully there is a buyback or sell-on clause. And I think Villa are potentially going to put both in terms of that. Duncan said good deal for all for Tim. Gary said, feel if we get through profit and sustainability this time, we'll be fine for years to come. Well, this is it, isn't it? And when I did the interview with Tom Colomassi, a few comments were like he sounds quite he sounds quite despondent. But don't forget, he's not an Aston Villa supporter, and
Yep.
he's an impartial journalist he's just reporting what he's heard and what he knows. And he said, at the moment it's a buyer's market, and why he was surprised about Aston Villa putting the news out there that they're trying to change the profit and sustainability rules and putting it out there so bluntly. He was a little bit surprised then, because it's now telling clubs what situation Aston Villa are in. So therefore, the Juventuses of this world, the Evertons of this world, or whoever else is in the market for our players, AC Milan, if rumours to believe, for cash, are going to try and get the best value that they can and negotiate hardball and keep that negotiation going until the 29th of June, because Villa are going to be ending up being desperate for these players, unless we have other teams that are coming in for these players. And it doesn't seem like that's happening at the moment.
I don't know how much I buy into that. I think that people in football know which teams are close to the bone with the FFP. And I also think there's a situation where people in clubs now are good at negotiating, and they're going to try and get the best deal no matter what, whether you've got shed loads of cash or not. I think the days of like Man City spending 60, 70, 80 million on fullbacks that never play are like maybe long gone. Still might buy England centre midfielders and ruin them, or England, left-sided forwards and ruin them. But I don't know. I think that Aston Villa, you think, all of a sudden Everton are sat there going, "Oh, have you heard Villa are in a bit of trouble? Didn't realise, hey, Nat. Well, let's play our ball." Otherwise, they would have just gone, "Give him 55 million for Tim." I don't know about that. I mean, I think it's probably just a bit of media talk, maybe. It'll be interesting what happens, and like with a lot of transfers, there will be a knock-on effect. I was thinking, we've obviously been linked with Onana, what's his name, from Everton, and if Tim goes that way, is there something to be done? Apparently, Monchi loves the swap deal. Apparently, he's a big fan of football stickers because he loves all the swaps. But is that a possibility with Onana coming in the other way? Who knows? If Duran goes, there's talk of obviously Ian Matson. So I don't know how this works in terms of, obviously they amortize the fee, don't they? And it shows well on the books. So I ain't got a clue really what's happening with it. I just know that we need a right back, we need a striker, we need a couple of midfielders, we need a centre half. Probably need another goalie. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, agreed. I was going to mention Onana, and yeah, I do think, getting Bonham, whatever we get for him, whether it's 8 million, 10 million, 5 million even, it's still a pretty decent deal for a player who doesn't play very often, and he hasn't come through our youth academy for the whole time, but has been a young player that's developed for us. So I think that's a pretty decent deal. Onana, on the other hand, I would really like him at Villa. I think there's a player there that can really develop. But they're looking at 40, 50 million now. The same that I'm saying about Aston Villa in terms of, I guess, a buyer's market, or a more careful market in terms of clubs looking for more value or driving a harder bargain, then this could be the same for him. Apparently Everton are wanting 50 million for him. Man United are looking at that Jared Branthwaite, and they're only looking to offer 35, 40 million. Everton are after 70 to 80 million. It's going to be somewhere that. So, in my opinion, Onana's not worth 50 million. So, are we going to say, okay, well, you want Bonham, let's say 10 million deal, let's say 7.5 million, that's the transfer fee. We're going to say, okay, well, we'll offer you 30 million for Onana. How does that work?
Yeah, the numbers have got a bit crazy, because I think if they're valuing Onana the same as Douglas Luiz, I was still surprised that Luiz's value was like 50 million. Apparently, for the deal, I thought it'd be way more than that. Way more than that. The midfielder, Brazilian international, high caliber, arguably our best player. To the age he's at, I thought you'd be looking at probably 70, 80 million for someone like him with the market. But I think that shows the market's probably changing somewhat, because everyone's got to be careful of obviously the numbers, and it only changes obviously when someone else wants to come in. And Chelsea seem like they're not spending 500 million pound on players now. So that was obviously skewing everything. But how desperate the teams get, and it is an interesting time with football transfers generally, because obviously Villa have been one of the loud voices in terms of trying to get it changed. Man City have obviously got their court case against the Premier League, their legal case. There's other teams that will want to be able to slow down the progression of teams potentially ahead of them, because obviously they're going to struggle to meet the FFP profit sustainability rules. So they won't want teams like Villa to kick on even further. So it's an interesting world. I mean, in a world like this, the one thing I would say where you stand apart is if you've got an elite coach, and we've got that, and that really helps, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Well, Tom was saying, this June the 30th could be almost like another transfer deadline day, more so than the September the 1st or whatever it is,
Yeah.
because you're going to see different teams each year that are going to have to sell by this time period to make sure that they're cooperating with PSR rules. So it's, yeah, like you say, it's going to be really interesting. Brazilian Lions, thank you for joining us. Evening from Brazil, up the Villa. Amazing stuff. Thank you for jumping on and in the chat. I do want to cover the Juventus thing, because a lot of people are in the chat saying it could be falling through because McKennie is. I don't think it's negotiations from the Villa side. I think he's owed money, or he's trying to
Yep.
negotiate from the Juventus side to get
Exactly.
what he payoff that he needs. Now, again, I'm not saying I'm in the know or anything like that, but in terms of anyone that gives me a little bit of information, I'm hearing that it's still fine. There's no problems with it. It should be on by the end of the week. And if you're looking at what the last data that Fabrizio Romano said, it was nothing to do with the agreement for McKennie and Villa, or Illing Jr. and Villa. It's to do with kind of negotiating it out of his contract, or what he's owed for his contract at Juventus. So that should all be sorted. So the news about another player could be Villa trying to put a bit of pressure on, or Juventus trying to put a bit of pressure on, or whatever on that side of things. But as far as I'm concerned, it's pretty much still a done deal. And Douglas Luiz and Alicia Lehmann are off to Juventus. I think you joked about that last week. And yeah, Weston McKennie and Sam Illing Jr. should be on their way to Aston Villa. So I guess until it's confirmed, what do you think about potential information on that, and what do you think about the potential of those two coming in now?
Well, maybe the hold up is McKennie and Illing Jr.'s girlfriends aren't being signed up
Yeah,
as ladies.
maybe they're like Turin or Birmingham.
To be fair, I
I'm not
don't think
sure.
Turin's the most picturesque
No,
Italian
it's
city.
not, to be honest. No.
Yeah. So like, but I mean, if you went Italy or Birmingham, you probably get away with the argument. But yeah, I mean, look, it's everything I've heard the same as what you've said there. Is that it's apparently to do with the exit rather than the interest to come to Villa. And I think once you got to this point of the player, saying they're interested, I think it would be then rare for him to change his mind and have a sort of second thoughts on what's going on. I don't know too much about Illing Jr. I gave my thoughts on McKennie the other day. I think he's someone that obviously I didn't have a clue what his age was. Embarrass
Yeah.
myself on a live podcast, but no. Look, the profile of that player seems to fit that kind of that defensive midfielder. He's it seems like he's decent on the ball. He's got good energy, good engine. Illing Jr. might be one of those players where out of nowhere, he's not that well known to us, but all of a sudden becomes an absolute world beater. He's very, very highly rated. Obviously, came through the Chelsea ranks. And there's all rumours of, is he going to be like this progressive wing back that we need? Maybe. I mean, it could be quite exciting if you can then get something similar on the right hand side, or at least an option on the right hand side if cash goes. It could really, really fundamentally change the way that we play, which would be really exciting, obviously, for a Champions League campaign.
Mm. Yeah, I quite like it. Like you've said before, we could be seeing more swap deals. We could be seeing more negotiations involving players that might be after a fresh start, or that might fit a profile that a manager's particularly looking for. So I think we just have to take it as it comes, and see what happens. If we're looking at a potential other player to be offered as part of the deal, I don't think it will be a top class player. I don't think it'll be a Chiesa or a Sule or anyone like that. But we'll see what happens. And then on the other side, we've got Chelsea with John Duran, and a potential swap deal that, again, talks of Matson, talks of one or two other players. I'm hearing potentially even Raheem Sterling being mentioned, his name being mentioned. But Duran apparently needs to drop his wage demands. But again, where are we hearing this? Where are we hearing all this information from? That Duran's wage demands are too high. Is that an agent talking about that? Is that Chelsea putting that out there to put
Who knows?
pressure on it? It's complete made up. Like who's in negotiations with transfer contract demands and stuff? Like it's all complete hearsay. I think one thing is for sure, that he is one of the options that they're looking for. He wants to go there. And then I guess it just depends on how the deal is structured and whether the players that they're offering are as an attractive proposal to Monchi and ultimately Unai Emery.
Yeah, well, it is that rock and a hard place because obviously we need to make sure we comply by the end of June, but we need to get players that we think are going to add to the squad. Matson, I think, definitely would. I think he definitely would. Ealing Junior, the profile of, I think, definitely would. McKennie, there's a lot of talk. Could we do better? But I don't know. I think if you get him for, say, circa 20 million at the age he's at, mid-20s, then I think that's probably a decent deal for a squad player. You've got to think as well, like in the last season, I said this at the start of the pod, we want obviously first team players to be improved on in certain positions. But when we were getting to the last probably 2 or 3 months of the season, and you've got to think, oh God, are we bringing the Rogbin in? We're going to have to move Tielemans or McGinn back. Chambers was getting games. It was pretty tough. If you've got a McKennie there or a Ross Barkley on the bench to come on, you've got decent quality options there to come on to do a job. Who've got good experience of playing, top flight football.
Yeah, I'm just laughing at Gary's comment. He'd take Illing Senior at the moment.
Yeah, good. I'd say, yeah, very good.
I like it. I like it. Guys, please do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We've got nearly 300 watching across both platforms, which is just amazing. We're also closing in on 4,200 subscribers. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and hit that like button as well to help us continue to grow. Any more sort of transfer potential deals that you've seen this last week or so? Anything that's kind of took your eye? Or
The
have we
cash,
generally covered it?
the cash to Milan rumours have gone a bit quiet, haven't
Yeah, they have. Cash to Milan. I think they've said that Archer's going to be made available for transfer,
they?
which I don't think that's a surprise. Um, but it definitely opens up the idea that we really do need a striker, because if you're letting Duran and Archer go, who I, I'd probably be more inclined to let Archer go over Duran, to be honest with you. But as I say, in terms of money that we can bring in, both will bring some decent finance in. But we definitely need another striker. I mean, is it Tammy Abraham? Is it Tammy that's going to potentially come back? A lot
Maybe.
of people in the chat also talk about attacking midfield of Alex Baena. Apparently, he's high on the list still. But I think we're looking at July for the potential incomes. I think we're looking at getting the outgoings done pretty soon.
Yeah, I'd like to see, a Chambers, a Dendonka. I'd like to see them secured with something. Sanson's move's confirmed, isn't it now? So he's obviously one
Hmm.
that's moved on. Coutinho, I'd like to see that confirmed. Whatever's going on with that, just to get a few of these little things wrapped up. I mean, obviously, it's good for the players. What's happening with Courtney Hawes? You know,
Yeah.
still decent. Decent age, could do a job somewhere, probably lower level Premier League, upper level Championship. You could get a fee. I think he's still got a year in his contract, doesn't he?
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I'd probably say I don't think we'd. I think it'd have to be a. I don't think you get any fee for him at the minute. I think it would have to be a loan out and then potentially just let him move on at the end or something like that, at the end of his contract or something. But
Mm,
because he hasn't played for like 2 or 3 years, has he? So
yeah, yeah, I know
yeah,
what you mean. Yeah, maybe give him a
Archer
loan.
apparently interested in Southampton at the moment. I can see Tammy. I can see that one being done.
You reckon?
Mm,
I mean, it'd be two good quality strikers, wouldn't it, to attack?
yeah. I mean, what would you take a Tammy over keeping a John Duran?
I think I'd take Tammy over John Duran all day long. I think you'd have to. I think with his record in top flight matches, both in Italy, obviously he did really well, didn't he, before his injury?
Mm.
Really well. And he's a slightly different profile of striker, isn't he? Good in the air. Not that Watkins isn't actually really good in the air now, but you know what I mean? A slightly different type of striker. And it gives us another really good option when you're fighting on a few fronts. It'd be good to have another. It'd be good to probably have an archer around actually with those two. So you've got actually a blend of skill sets there. Something's got to happen, and maybe that's what it is. Maybe we're all frustrated now, waiting for these outgoings to happen, and then all of a sudden there's a flurry of incomings because we've got to bring players in, haven't we? We need to. We need to. So it's
Yeah,
maybe we
I
should just be
think.
patient.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know when first day of pre-season is. Are we playing Walsall on like the 6th of July?
Something like that.
So you'd imagine maybe the Tuesday or the Wednesday of the. I mean, they might be in on the Monday. Obviously, we've got 3 or 4 players at the Euros as well, so they won't come back right on time. There's a couple at the Copa America as well, so they won't come back straight away either. So yeah, I think he'll want deals done by that week, and maybe announcing 1 or 2 signings by the end of that week. For that Walsall friendly, because we obviously going out to America, and then we've got the other friendlies as well. So that's going to need to be done. But yeah, I think these outgoings, these 1 or 2 outgoings, need to be done or need to be put onto the balance sheet to make sure that we're complying with the rules. The
Yeah.
Jonathan David, Chad in Villa Forever mentioned about Jonathan David. That's gone really quiet, but I do think he's been offered around to Premier League clubs. But I mean, I'm only going off the games that he played against us, but I was pretty disappointed with him when he
Yeah.
played. Robin Olsen, I think he's looking at going back to Mulder. I think
Okay.
he's talking with them, and apparently he's on quite high wages as well. So that'd be good to get him off the books.
Yeah, it's I think if you're looking at players you've seen in the Conference League, you'd rather get the Olympiacos striker, wouldn't you, than Jonathan David?
Mm, mm. What about the risk of Jacob Ramsey, who apparently was interested in Bayern Munich? Ollie Watkins, if he pushes on and has, potentially makes an appearance and does well. Obviously, he's had a great season anyway. What about one of those being a big club? When I'm talking big clubs, I'm talking the Bayern Munichs of this world, that kind of thing, coming in from one of those big hitters.
Well, I don't want to be overly optimistic here, but I'd like to believe that with the way the club is at the moment, that if we're sanctioning a deal for Louise to go out and potentially Duran, that we won't need or even entertain an offer for a Martinez or a Watkins or a Ramsey, because the big hitters that are going out are Duran with his potential, obviously, and then looking at the fee, and particularly Douglas Luiz in terms of his profile. So I think if Luiz was staying, then you maybe would still be thinking that. But I actually think that kind of reassures me a little bit that nothing's happening with the Watkins and an Emmy. I hope.
Mm, yeah, yeah. Bear and the Gardeners mentioned there about the Olympics tournament. Now, a couple of players have been told, I think, that they're not being picked, but Martinez really wants to go.
Mm.
How do you think that'll affect us? And do you think we'll grant him permission?
It's interesting. I feel like Martinez can do what he wants. And maybe I feel like he would have had some kind of deal somewhere, and I don't know, like you know what he's like. He loves, doesn't he, playing for Argentina? So I don't know. I think it depends what Lionel Messi's doing. If Messi's going, he'll probably go. If not, then he'll probably give it up. But if that does happen, and he's gone for what, a few games of the season, you want another option there, don't you, at goalkeeper? Really?
Yeah, I mean, Gauchi, unproven, totally unproven. Olsen on his way. We'd have to. I think he would miss Champions League games, would he not?
I think he probably would.
Or is it end of July till the end of August?
Yeah, I think it's also it's fatigue in it. It's not so
Yes. Well,
Copa America,
he'd have to have
Olympics.
time off afterwards, yeah, to recover. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know, but it's one of those, isn't it? He said it's a massive ambition of his to win, to play in an Olympic Games and all that kind of stuff. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, difficult one. I know I mentioned it on, I think, a bit of a roundup, but I know we're talking goalkeepers, and sad news the other day about Matej Sarkic and then Kevin Campbell as well. Obviously not Aston Villa related with Kevin Campbell, but yeah, really sad news for anyone connected with Mateo Sarkic. I mean, 26 years old, Millwall's goalkeeper as well, in the prime of his career. Just shocking stuff.
Oh, it's incredibly sad. Obviously, he was at Villa for a few years as a young goalie. Played for Blues, played for Millwall, played for I think in Scotland for a bit as well, and was by all accounts a lovely guy. Obviously, was a really highly rated goalkeeper playing Championship level last season at a decent level in the Championship. It's just tragic. No age, no cause of death. There's all the usual rumours you get around various things. I don't think it would be fair to speculate at all. Who knows what happened? But was it a night out and then fell ill? And then obviously in the same week, Kevin Campbell. No direct Villa link, but such great plaudits about him as being what a wonderful bloke he was. There's so many great anecdotes and stories going around of him talking about Rooney. If people haven't seen it going around, and I just remember him as being a really great striker in the Premier League. Won the title with Arsenal. Obviously kept Everton up, and obviously at the same time, but Alan Hansen's apparently really ill in hospital. So
Yeah.
it's what an absolute football legend he was. Both in terms of the media, but also particularly as a player. Most people wouldn't really remember as a footballer. I barely do. I'm sure you barely do because he would have retired when we were probably about 8 or 9 years old. But sad for football, and it really, really does go to show that you need to maximise everything in your life because don't want to do too much for positive speech to everyone. But carpe diem. 26 years old, Sarkic. He's just absolutely tragic, and thoughts obviously go out to his family and all those associated with him.
Yeah, 100%. Just thought we'd mention it again because it is important. It is important to go to pay tribute to these people. And like you say, mate, it's one of those where you just think life is just so short, and it's all cliched and stuff. But absolutely. Just moving on a little bit into, I guess, general chat. We've obviously got the Euros at the moment. We will keep it a little bit Villa related. And then I'll ask you some questions more generally in terms of the Euros and what your thoughts are on some of the teams. But Villa players, not I guess a great time for them at the moment. John McGinn,
terrible, mate.
Poor performance against Germany, 5-1 defeat as well. Yuri Tielemans didn't get much of a look in for Belgium. They lost 1-0, and then obviously Ollie Watkins and Ezri Konsa, I think that's expected that they didn't get used. Now McGinn has an opportunity tomorrow night to rectify that. Yeah, what are your general thoughts on the, I guess, the teams that Aston Villa involvement at the moment?
Well, selfishly, I'm happy that Tielemans hasn't got too many minutes in his legs. I'm same for Constant, same for Watkins. But if I really try and be nice and fair about them and their careers, if there's ever going to be a time when you're going to bring on your second striker, then it's that last 20 minutes against Serbia when Kane was. I mean, he didn't do anything in the whole game, did he? I think if that first half performance had been Ollie Watkins rather than Harry Kane, Watkins would have been crucified out there for having 2 or 3 touches in the whole half or something. Crucified because it's Kane. It's it's Harry Kane and he can do what he wants. I don't care who you are, how good a player you are. If you're not being effective in a game, we easily could have conceded at the end of that game, and Watkins would have stretched that defence, no doubt about it. He would have. I think Mark Gay, fair play to him, did pretty well. So
yeah,
you can't
he had
really
a very good game.
grumble about that too much. McGinn, shocker all round, wasn't it? Ryan Porteous didn't help, but by that point they were already 2 down. But just a shocker all round. But Germany are a good side.
Oh
Some of their attacking
yeah.
talent, he's absolutely frightening, isn't it? And Tielemans got 15 minutes, I think it was. So not too much to report really. The Euros in terms of the point you said about any dark horses and teams. From what I've seen, Georgia looked pretty handy. Turkey looked solid. Turkey looked like they're
Turkey, yeah, good side. I mean, that was game of the tournament for me, that one today. And I think Romania scored some cracking goals. I do think that it made a difference because it was 2 teams that, like those 2 matches where both teams in across those 2 matches thought, right, we've got a chance of winning this one. We've got to really go for it. Whereas I guess Scotland playing Germany that was completely backs against the wall. And then 1 or 2 of the other games against the so-called big boys, Austria against France was a bit more of a of a cagey affair. But I think what disappointed me about England, and I thought about this today, was yes, they got the win, but I think there's been other teams, a couple of other teams that have laboured to victories. You know, France could argue the same. But what disappointed me about England is they had the opportunity to really push on and win that game by a lot. Like they scored an early goal. Bellingham scored an early goal. Was it 12, 13 minutes? Germany could have got frustrated against Scotland, but they scored a goal early and then carried on and capitalised on it. England could have done that against Serbia, and I think that's the frustrating bit. And in the end, we let Serbia completely dominate the game against us, completely control possession after about 35 minutes because it wasn't all second half. It started in the first half as well, and then we're hanging on at the end, and that's the disappointing thing. And then he goes and says, "Oh, we expanded too much energy in the first half, so then we need to conserve a bit more energy, so we've got more in the second half." He only made 3 subs. He could have made, he can make 5 substitutes. Like, you could have brought Palmer on. You could have brought Gordon on. You could have brought Watkins on. You could have brought Tony on. You could have made a triple substitution. But
Eze.
no, you wanted to make Eze. No, you wanted to make one substitute each time and completely waste the opportunity to make more substitutions. And I think that's what. So the two things that really frustrated me were we scored early. We had the opportunity to really take the game away from them and score 2 or 3 goals, but we decided not to and take the foot off the gas. And then he's talking about conserving energy and completely contradicting himself by not making the substitutes that he should have made in the first place.
You well said. Well said. I think this debate gets shut down so much. It's weird actually because I feel differently about England than I do Villa. When I'm always going, let's be patient. It's okay. We're going to lose some games. But with England, I guess you know what it is with England now, and I will make this point quite firmly. Hopefully, is that I said 6 years ago, when the dust settles down the line, we'll look back at a situation where we went, oh my God, we got to World Cup semi final and bad luck, we lost. Who to? Brazil, France, Spain, Croatia. Oh, and what we like 2 down. No, we were 1-0 up and we could have, Kane should have squared it to Sterling to make it 2-0. You know, we were 1-0 up against Italy early in the Euros final. What happened? We sat back, we played it steady. What happened? We didn't win. Obviously, France in the last World Cup, where we had momentum during that game to kick on opportunities, we didn't kick on. And my worry is that I know that every game is individual, and a win is a win, and that shuts down the debate. Okay, a win is a win, fair enough. But you've got a game like that. If you're playing like that against a France or a Germany now, not Germany of the Paul they were in the Euros, I don't think you're winning that game. I think you leave it too much to chance. We've got the quality in that squad. If Foden's having a bad game, bring on Cole Palmer or bring on Anthony Gordon. He's in tremendous form. So's Foden. Use him effectively. Alexander Arnold. Why are we playing Alexander Arnold in midfield? He's not good enough in midfield. He might be a bit of a luxury player. If it might be a flat trap bully against, playing a rubbish team against decent European teams. I think he's going to get found out. You've got the quality of the personnel there to bring into that team. For me, it's Gallagher over Alexander Arnold, or maybe even a Maynard over Alexander Arnold. Gordon's got to play. Eze's got to come on. You've got players in that team that can do a good job. And I just think there's too many situations where we just let Foden and Kane just keep it going when they weren't doing anything.
Yeah, and I think that says more to the other members of the squad as well. Like, it says more that he's not substituting them with the other members of the team than actually substituting them, like in terms of his reputation. Like,
Yeah.
everyone can see that Foden and Kane are having a bad game. So make the changes, because what does that say to the rest of the players that are sitting there on the bench? Are they saying, oh, well, they could just play it however they want? Because make no mistake, they're friends and stuff and friendly in the squad, but they all want to be playing. They think they're better than Cole Palmer thinks he's better. Like, Ollie Watkins thinks he could do better in those situations. Like, of course he is. Wouldn't be professional footballers if they didn't.
Yeah.
So what does that say to them? Oh, well, they can just do what they want, and I'm not going
Yeah.
to get on.
Of course, and he's made some big calls, not bringing a Madison and a Grealish, to bring in some other players. And didn't give him any opportunity in that game. I mean,
Yeah.
players recently, in terms of quality, I don't think Adam Wharton would have been out of place in that game at all.
He moves the ball quickly. He wins the ball and moves it quickly. Now, hopefully, we'll see some of those players either start to play a little bit better, start to relax a little bit more, or he makes changes. But sadly, I can't. It just doesn't fill me with a huge amount of confidence. And yes, you can
No,
point to the win, but you have to look at the signs in the games, and you have to look at, is the manager doing anything differently to what he's done before? And sadly, that he isn't doing anything differently to what he's done before. He isn't managing the game effectively. He isn't managing his substitutes effectively. He doesn't seem to be making the big calls when he should be making the big calls. Yes, you could point to the fact that they might have drawn that game in another tournament, but still,
I don't
it's
think so. No, I think the argument's gone now because this is a
yeah.
really, really talented, maybe not the best squad like some people say, but this is a really talented group of players. And I think if Mr. Blobby was managing them, they'd get to the latter stages of most European and or world tournaments. At the moment, I think they would.
I've
You
got
know,
images of Mr. Blobby doing a
Woo!
halftime thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Going around the dressing room, bouncing into people.
yeah,
Yeah,
probably make more sense.
probably would.
I've got a controversial
Yeah, you go,
take.
you go.
Now, Jude Bellingham is a wonderful, wonderful footballer. Do you think that he's trying to do too much in an England game, in an England shirt, and stifling other players' games?
Um,
Because I think he is.
yeah,
I think he's all over the place and he's dominating spaces. He's dominating people's games. And yes, he's playing well, but there's an argument of like, well, you're playing just because you're playing well, you're taking away two, three, four other people's game. And then if you then give the ball away or don't do so well, then that's five players that aren't playing well. When if you didn't take their space or you didn't go all over the place and held your position a little bit more, then you might bring more out of the other two or three players, i.e. Foden, i.e. Saka, i.e. Kane. And I just
yeah,
think there's an element of, remember when Steven Gerrard was brilliant for Liverpool, but he just used to try and overtake everyone's game, and it was like,
yeah.
why are you running all over the place? Like
It's
just
all yeah, it's
yeah,
almost as if we're like a really lower nation, and he's like our one standout player. Like as if and I think there's an element to it. I thought he was great the other night in so many ways, but there's times I think he overplayed it a bit. But then I thought that interestingly, there's a lot of talk, isn't there, about pundits in the game, and I thought Cesc Fabregas made a lot of the pundits out there look a bit stupid because he was so great when he was talking about phone. I thought he was brilliant. And all this, you're a pundit because of sometimes, maybe something not to do with your football punditry skills at the moment, who or what the situation is. To have someone like him actually saying, no, come on, Foden's got
yeah.
to,
Yeah, well,
he's
absolutely.
got to
Like
go for it.
if he sees Bellingham doing that, you almost go, okay, well, sod that. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna start imposing myself, and then all of a sudden, it brings the level up of everyone. Look at the team he played in with Spain. You had Fabregas, Xavi, and Iniesta. You can't tell me that like Iniesta would dominate a part of it, then Fabregas would step up, then Xavi would kind of just control it. That's what they should be doing. Like Foden should be picking up the ball on the right hand side. He should be going through the middle. He should be dropping off into and picking it up off the back four, just pulling teams about a little bit. And yeah, I agree with that, but I do think there's an element of Bellingham, and it's a difficult problem for Southgate, and I do kind of have a bit of empathy for him on this situation because you don't want to stifle Bellingham, but then or equally you don't want to do that to the detriment of other people's game. And Harry Kane only having 2 touches, that's he needs to get over that issue somewhere along the line. Now, is that a slight thing about Bellingham taking up his spaces? Is the fact that Foden was maybe dropping into areas that he wasn't receiving the ball? Is that an element of Bellingham taking up space? I don't know, but yeah, I think he needs, in my opinion, maybe just to rein it in just at that little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is that you've seen the players this season how well they've performed. you can't really argue about Foden being in there, but for Eze, for Gordon, for Wharton, for all those players not getting on that pitch in that game, to see the players struggling second half, to see what happened in terms of what was in front of all of us. And let's be clear, right? Let's be clear. Like, if we, for whatever reason, don't get, lose one of the next two games, and Serbia easily could have equalised in that game.
They could have done.
You're leaving it to chance there, and they got some decent players. We've also seen in this tournament, France didn't have it all their own way. Belgium,
No, exactly. Belgium, Portugal today. So yeah, you by hook or by crook, you want to win your first game. That takes a bit of pressure off. So it's certainly not being over the top in terms of criticism. My point is about the manager and what he does and doesn't do, and that I think everybody knows. I think the players can have an off night and then come back and do the same and then do better the next game. But yeah, I think he will. I think he will look at what Bellingham does and doesn't do in a game and try and maybe just temper it a little bit for kind of future games. Do you see Konsa and Watkins contributing at all over this tournament? I know you can't tell in terms of injury and that kind of stuff, but do you see anything happening there?
Maybe if Kane isn't at it again the next game, maybe he has to bring on Watkins. But I don't know about Konza. If there's an injury, maybe I don't know. I don't know. Maybe if he wants to shore it up somewhere, then he might do something. But if Trent doesn't play midfield, is he not then getting a gig at right back? I don't know. I don't think he's getting past Carl Walker. I think there's also a potential that you could play with Carl Walker centre half and then play.
Well, I thought about that today. I thought you could maybe do that. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because he's absolutely right. Why he didn't put his foot through that one when he got played in? He should have just absolutely levered it towards goal. But no, I don't really think I can see him playing too much of a part. And I'd like to think they would. But I don't know. I can see Kane playing as much as possible. But who knows? Who knows? I mean, he's got a squad. He has said himself you've got to use your squad in these tournaments. So maybe he does make a few changes for the next game.
Yeah, I mean, Denmark look pretty tidy. I think we win that, and then maybe with 6 points, depending on the other game, if you're guaranteed to top the group, he might make a few changes. Maybe you see Konsa coming in for that game, Watkins maybe used for that game, because he has done that in the past, hasn't he? He doesn't like to. Obviously, there's a couple of goalkeepers that won't get used, but the other players, he likes to try and give them some sort of minutes if he can, where he can, to make their time worthwhile. So
yeah,
we might see them.
We're all forgetting something though. Like, he's got a stellar career before this as a manager. He got Middlesbrough relegated, and he deserves his opportunity. And he's clutched defeat from the jaws of victory in a couple of major tournaments. But we got to the semis, we got to the final. Nah, I don't buy that. I think.
Well, I've never been a fan of him. I think he came in and did really well in that first World Cup, but I think the signs were there. You gave him a pass on that one semi-final and all that kind of stuff. But then since then, he hasn't learned from those mistakes. And the final against Italy, great, got us to the final and all that. But the key moments, the big moments, that's when you're judged. And he hasn't.
That wasn't a great Italy team. Italy team.
And that's 3 times he's failed. The momentum shift in that France game. Yes, Kane missed a penalty and all that kind of stuff, but he had an opportunity to bring a couple of players on to freshen up, and he didn't do it. And again, in this game, he's panicking over substitutions, and he's giving the initiative to the other manager. When we've seen about Unai Emery, like, he's made changes after 45 minutes at half time. He's made changes at 50 minutes and made 2 or 3 changes. You're never going to see Gareth Southgate do that.
No. I mean, obviously we'll see what happens, won't we? But I don't know. I mean, I think the tournament's wide open. I really think it is.
Well, that was going to be my final question to you. Who do you see after the first round of games? I know you talked about their Georgia and Turkey impressing you, but who do you see as a kind of early shout for the tournament after watching the first round of games?
I think I'm going to reserve my full opinion on this because, I mean, Germany did play Scotland, and I think me, you, and a few of the commenters would have beat Scotland if you'd had 6 of us. So, but based on what I have seen so far, I think you've probably got to say Germany. I think Germany will be someone that will be pretty hard to beat, particularly on home soil. They're always generally pretty good in tournament football. Germany, they've got a good record. So I think they'll probably be someone. I think Spain look pretty handy. Portugal got a good squad. France are clearly a good team. Obviously done pretty well. Got to the World Cup final recently as well. So I think there's some good teams still in there. But there's no reason with the right kind of manager or the right kind of tactics that England couldn't have a real go at it. No reason.
Stephen was saying you better not say that.
No, listen. Anyone that sort of follows me on Twitter, I like to put out sort of like quite baiting posts sometimes. But and then maybe someone in the comments can answer this question for me. But I am very patriotic. I'm not someone that does this country down. Love England, proud of being from England. I'm half Irish. My mum was born in Ireland, right? So I used to love it back in the early 90s, particularly when Ireland used to qualify for tournaments because I had two teams. But for some reason now, I don't really give a shit as much as I used to. I remember Italian 90, Euro 96, fine, they were two stellar moments. But I remember like World Cup 2002 when Ronaldinho, scored that long range goal. I remember the Euro 04. I remember all these moments when I was really, really up for it. If I'm watching a British golfer, like in a major, I'm really rooting for him. I'm watching a British tennis player, Raducanu and Murray, I'm really rooting for him. If I'm watching an England cricket team, but the England football team, I'm not as bothered as I was. I don't know what it is. Is it?
Yeah, I think he really Southgate when he first came in, he really captured the nation, and 2018 was a brilliant time and a brilliant tournament, and that really got everyone rallied around and back to kind of loving England and loving the country again. I really think it's to do with the manager and the general malaise around him. I honestly think that's what it is, and there is an element now where the Premier League is so big, the Champions League is so big, and particularly us as Aston Villa supporters, now we're in the Champions League. It's like just get the season started, the next season started. Forget about this Euros rubbish. We want the Champions League back. So,
You know what else I
but
think it
yeah,
is as well? I think that golden generation we used to talk about so much. I've seen so much in recent years about how they were so fractured in terms of like the cliques and the splits they had in the squad, and how they didn't really talk to each other. And you got players like a Neville and a Terry and a Ferdinand and a Gerrard and Lampard, and they're openly saying to some of these players that they didn't really particularly like work as a team together. And I think I look at that kind of situation, and I think it's probably a follow on from that. And yet, when I think about football, I mean, for those that might know from sort of hearing me talk about it, I absolutely love Greece. Worked there for 4 years. The way I celebrated Greece winning the Euros, I was in Greece my last year as a holiday rep. I don't think I've celebrated an England win like I celebrate most of those Greek wins. When Robbie Brady scored for Ireland, I think it was in a World Cup, or Robbie Keane scored against Germany, and I celebrate those goals for Ireland. I don't know whether it's because it's the underdog, maybe more in England.
yeah, I was just about to say is the expectation. What we need is we need a big win. We need to beat a France or a Spain or a Germany. I know we beat them in the Euro 2020 that was done in 2021. I know we beat them in that, but we need that type of win where we come back from 1-0 down or 2-0 down or something like that, and just arrest the game. But I just don't think that's going to happen, unfortunately. I think if we were to win it, I still think we'd win it by like, I don't know, just getting a penalty and just holding on and winning 1-0. Like there wouldn't be
We
any
wouldn't
like
know, would we?
rip roaring stuff.
Because Kane doesn't turn up in the clutch moment, so he'd probably miss it like he did against France.
Yeah, no,
Anyway,
we'll enjoy the tournament now, and like you say, we hope for improvement from England, and I think they will improve. I really do, but it's just, yeah, I think we just something needs to happen to kind of really get that spark back for England and for the team.
yep.
Before we finish up, just want to shout out a couple of things before we go. So just want to shout out football prizes. This is the last one before the new season starts. So there's going to be no prize next month. So if you want the chance to win a signed Leon Bailey Aston Villa shirt, then make sure you head to footballprizes.co.uk, search for the Leon Bailey competition and purchase your ticket. The competition ends on Thursday. The draw will be done on Friday. So you still got a couple of days there. And there are also instant win prizes as well. The opportunity to win instant win prizes. Two of those prizes are an Ollie Watkins signed shirt and a Moussa Diaby signed shirt. So it's a really good competition to end the season off with, and then we'll start back up when the season begins. So, yeah, make sure you visit footballprizes.co.uk and search for the Leon Bailey prize for that. And then finally, in terms of Michael and his charity that we plugged and we launched, we're still planning our own Villa Park podcast fundraising activities. Yes, I think there's some sort of song I think Michael wants us to sing, so we're going to get involved in that. But I think we're going to do something as a channel, and we might even do some sort of merchandise as well, maybe some mugs that we'll sell and hopefully be able to raise some money for the Villa Foundation. But you guys as well, make sure you sign up to Just Giving. Think about what you want to do in terms of your fundraising activity. Link it to 100 and the Aston Villa 150 years. So something to do with that. It has 150 in it, or you're going to swim 150 lengths or bake 150 cakes, something like that. And then see if you can get people to donate to you and raise money for the foundation. You've got all next season to do it as well, so plenty of time to plan, and we'll keep plugging it on this show. So yeah, make sure you have a look at that as well. I've lost there, Kev. Kev, anything else you wanted to cover, or I think we've pretty much done?
Love Island, maybe.
Don't even watch that anymore.
Only joking. All the girls look about 78 in Love Island this season. Not that I'm watching it by all accounts. And have I got any good Netflix recommendations? I'm all out of I'm all out of shows. No, mate, I'm all right. I just want the Villa back. I want Champions League Villa back. I want transfers coming in. I want big signings. I want to see Monchi and Emery like puffing their chests out. I want to see Ross Barkley through the door. Then Alex Buena. And then I want to see Frimpong. Then a Rodri making that shock move from the Etihad. Like, I want to see it all. I want to see it now. Come on.
All in good time, oh man. All in good time. Well, great show as always. Thank you, everyone in the comments. Do look out for more shows. I am going to plan to do a show with Gareth, talking about another 5 or 6 players that should be on our radar or could be on our radar. So do look out for that. Obviously, any more transfer talk roundup shows as well, I will be doing them throughout the week. And Fans Forum will be back next week, and then any other reaction shows that we decide to do as well. So make sure you stay tuned for the channel. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Help us continue on the road to 5,000 subscribers. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And as always, remember, we'll follow the Villa.